What's up guys, Eric from B-Side. Today we have here the S-Connect interface, and basically the S-Connect interface is a plug and play retrofit to add CarPlay or Android Auto to your older Lexus or Toyota vehicles. So plug and play, you reuse the factory screen, you retain all the factory controls, your backup camera, your 360 camera, all those factory functions are retained. And on top of that, it is approved by Lexus USA. It's being offered at local dealerships. You could buy it from them. You can also get it installed at select dealerships as well. Alright guys, so once you receive our S-Connect interface box like this, make sure there are no damages on the outside of the box. If you see any damages or if you see any damage on the shipping box, make sure to take as many photos as you can, show it to us so that we can get you the replacement parts if needed, or we can tell you if things got damaged or not. So don't try to install things that arrives broken or damaged from shipment. So here it is guys. There's gonna be an instruction manual on top of it, and on the bottom of the page there's gonna be a QR code where you scan and you'll get the full entire installation instructions. So make sure you scan that QR code and go through all those steps in the instructions manual. There's a lot of important things in there that's not mentioned in the video that's very important to go through to ensure that you install the product correctly and you don't run into any issues during the way. Upon opening both of the boxes, you'll notice that there's two boxes, and one of them is going to be this dip switch box here. The dip switch is already going to be pre-configured specifically to your vehicle. When you place the order, we do that for you. And on top of that, you'll have a tag here just in case you end up changing the dip switch setting. You can find a label here that tells you what the dip switch configuration should be. When it's down, that's the on position. When it's up, that's the off position. And you'll find these three empty connectors that we're going to connect to the rest of the kit later on. And then the second box you see over here, this is the CarPlay Android Auto module. On both sides there's a lot of connections, and all this will be connected to our wiring harness and also to the other box as well upon installation. And going further, we have the main harness. So this main harness is the largest harness of the kit, and this will connect behind the radio, and there's other parts that also get connected to these boxes and rest of the vehicle. And there's also these CAN wires here. This is also going to be pre-configured. This one is not configured yet. It's not connected to anything, but there's these two wires that are white and orange, which connects to these wires, or it connects to itself depending on which vehicle you have. Going further, we have this RF antenna. This is for your wireless connection for your CarPlay and Android Auto between your phone and our device. And we also have this auxiliary harness. You can omit to install this if you don't want to keep everything clean. We don't use the auxiliary source anymore, but there's some customers out there that rather use the auxiliary source, but 99% of you will not need this just because it's optimal to use the car's Bluetooth for your audio source and not the auxiliary. And we also have these two sets of GVIF cables. One of them is going to be labeled out and the other one's going to be labeled in. So basically these are the video cables that connects between the car screen and to our video interface or the dip switch box. And we also have our HDMI cable. This HDMI cable will connect these two boxes. And we have our USB extension cable, which will go from our CarPlay Android Auto module all the way to your cabin space, all the way to the inside of your car where you can plug your phone into this for wired CarPlay or Android Auto. And we also have these zip ties here and also some foam tape that you can use while you're installing it. So alright guys, these are all the parts that are included in your kit. So we almost never miss any parts because we go through a lot of QC and triple checking to ensure everything's inside. But just in case if there's something missing, go ahead and contact us before you start your installation, or if you see something that is off or something that's damaged as well, do not install it, but make sure to take a photo and contact us before you start your installation. Alright guys, so let me show you how everything connects from our kit. So we'll start off with our dip switch box or video interface, and on here you'll find these two green plugs, and that will connect to these two cables. And one of these two cables is going to be labeled with GVIF in. So the one that's labeled in is actually going to the outside like this, okay? And the other one that's labeled GVIF out will connect to the inside part. So these two connectors will connect to the vehicle. So the male side will connect to the screen, and the female side will connect to the original connector that was on the screen. Okay, so it's gonna unplug, plug it in here. This will connect to the screen. And then we have here another connector, and that connector will connect to this main harness. You'll find this matching connector here, just like that. All right. And then these CAN wires will already be pre-configured for you, so just don't mess with it. If you have a Lexus GX, it should be connected to each other like this. If you have other vehicles, it'll be a combination of connection between these other cables here. And the male side of this will connect to the radio, and the female side will connect to the harness that originally connected to the radio back here. Okay. And the other side of this box, you'll find an HDMI plug. We're gonna grab this HDMI cable. One's gonna have a L shape, the other one straight. We'll grab the L shape side and connect it right here. Okay, just like that. And this completes the connection on our video interface. So we're gonna grab our CarPlay Android Auto module, and then you'll find the RF antenna. We'll connect the RF antenna here. You'll also find this USB extension cable, which will connect right next to the RF antenna. And we also have another 3.5mm jack right next to the USB connector, which is going to be your microphone input. You can also see in here, this mic in. It's going to connect right there. And the mic connection is going to be coming from your main harness. And this microphone will connect to here, right next to the USB. Alright. And then there's also this power harness, or power wires, whatever you want to call it, which will connect to the other side of our module. Like so. And then this HDMI here will connect here. Just like that. And we have this auxiliary harness. This connects to the radio, and this connects to the original male connector that was on the radio. So that's how it connects. And then you'll have this auxiliary 3.5mm will connect to line out, all the way out in the corner here. If you look over here, it says line out. There's two plugs right next to each other. The one that says external speaker right next to it, do not connect there. You're gonna get distortion if you do. Connect to line out. And this harness here, once again, is an optional harness. You do not have to connect it because most likely you're not going to be utilizing the auxiliary source on the vehicle. All our audio is routed to the car's Bluetooth now. When you're using these foam tape to insulate these two boxes, there are vent holes here, 4 vent holes. Make sure do not cover them. And when you're using these foam tape, go towards the outer edge and wrap it around so that you don't end up blocking the vent holes. Some of you guys were wrapping this inside this little opening, slit opening here. If you do that, it will cover the vent holes and the boxes will not be able to breathe, and it will overheat the boxes, and you don't want that. And that goes for this other box as well. Vent holes are around here, do not cover it. If you're gonna insulate it, do it all the way at the edge. Alright guys, so when you're installing, things to look out for, especially are these HDMI connection points here. When you're mounting these boxes, putting it behind the glove box or wherever you decide to put it in, make sure these are not being strained, which means make sure there's no pressure going against them or up, especially when you're putting everything back together, because with enough force on these, you will knock off the plugs off the circuit board and it will not be repairable. You'll have to replace the boxes, and these boxes are very, very expensive to replace. So be very careful that doesn't happen. Even this GVIF cable point, these two, make sure to not put any pressure on these as well. With enough pressure, it will break off. And on top of that, when you're connecting these connectors to the car, watch out for the female side. The female side has these pins sticking out. Make sure they are not bent. Make sure when you're putting it in, you put it in straight. If it doesn't go in correctly, pull it out and just observe and make sure none of the pins got bent. If it is, you can use a little pick tool and unbend it and then put it back in. So the point is, make sure you put it inside straight. And then on top of that, one last thing you want to watch out for is GVIF cable, the GVIF out. This is the part that connects to the screen. When you're mounting these boxes, there's times where you barely have enough cable to mount these boxes. And when that happens, you end up pulling it more than you're supposed to. And with enough force, this cable here will dislodge from the connector. And you won't know until you try to turn on your car. You just won't get anything on the screen. So be very, very careful with this. This is the part that goes into the screen, and with enough pulling, this will pull off. Alright guys, so this gives you an idea of how to connect our entire kit. Our kit does come with very detailed instructions. Do not forget to go through them. Some people just like to look at the video and go through the video step, but we have a lot of videos out there and some are outdated. So in addition to reviewing our new video, make sure to go through every single step on the instructions manual. Everything is there. It's very, very detailed. Connection diagram is there as well. And on top of that, while you're installing, never ever force things. When things are not going in, don't just jam it in there. Be very careful when you're routing the cables, and if you're going through different areas of the back of the radio, it could be very, very sharp. You can cut your hands. You can even damage the harness. So watch out for that. Be very observant. Be very, very careful. And one other thing, there's heater pipes going behind the dash. So when you're routing the cable, sometimes it might get close to it. So just make sure to pull the cable away from those heater pipes, because you do not want to get those hot, especially the GVIF cables. With enough heat, it will malfunction. So get it out of the way and use zip ties and electric tape and organize them so that you install everything correctly. Alright guys, I want to go over the tools that we like to use to install our S-Connect Retrofit CarPlay Android Auto Kit to Lexus's and also Toyota's. And before we do so, just make sure the environment that you're installing the kit is really good, as in it's in a well-lit area, you're not working in the dark, the area is dry, you're not working outside while it's raining, the place is not dusty, in a leveled area so that your car won't roll when you change your gear, or make sure your emergency brake is engaged at all times. Alright, so I'm gonna go through the tools from the most important one to the least important one. And you definitely need a 10mm socket. All the radios are being held by 10mm bolts. We like to use one with a magnetic tip. It's kind of pricey, and if you don't need it, it's absolutely not necessary. But be very careful when you're removing these 10mm bolts, especially on the Lexus RX and the Lexus GS, because there's a higher risk of you losing them while you're removing the bolts. If you want to be extra careful, you don't have a magnetic tip, you can use some masking tape and stuff it inside here just so that the grip not loose, which gives you a bit more grip when you're removing that 10mm bolt. So you need a 10mm socket. We like to use this power tool. You don't need to use a power tool. You can also use a ratchet. Most of you guys will probably have one of these with a 10mm, which you can manually remove and tighten the 10mm bolts. And you may also need an extension around this size. This is absolutely needed for like the Lexus RX and GS once again. For other vehicles, you don't really need them, but it will be very, very helpful if you do have them. These two short Phillip and the flatheads, once again, you don't need it for all the vehicles, but you will need the short Phillips for Lexus GS. You'll need the short flathead for Lexus ES. And we also like to keep the magnetic pickup tool handy just in case you end up dropping a bolt so you could fish it out. And then the flathead, we like to use this to help release the clips. I like to pry it and push it from the inside out. And if we can't push it from the inside out, we'll use this tool here and get the clip in between this wedge and then pull up. We also have the plastic version of that with the panel removal tool on the other side. And of course the Phillips screwdriver, the standard size, to remove Phillips screws like for on the Lexus IS and the Lexus RC. And on top of that, we like to have a panel removal tool. This one in a few various sizes just to help remove the panels without damaging them. And we like to use the ones in plastic, not the metal ones, because the metal ones may leave a mark inside your interior, whereas the plastic ones are flexible enough to not damage your interior. And on top of that, we have this side cutter here to cut off all the ends of the extra part of the zip ties, and of course some masking tape to protect the inside of your vehicle, or just having a tape in general will help you, and these could go a long way as well. And on top of that, while you're doing all this installation, we also like to wear gloves that matches your hand. Make sure you get the one that matches your hand. Latex gloves are fine, and these will help you get a little bit more grip on the tools and also help protect your hands from all the sharp edges from the back of the radio. And on top of that, it's always nice to have some extra light. And very importantly, if you want to prevent damaging the interior of your car, get a thick towel like this. Alright, it doesn't have to be this thick. You could use an old sweater as well to cover up the interior when you pull the radio out, because there are sharp edges on the bracket of the radio. And we also have the zip ties that we like to use. The kit does come with a few zip ties, but a lot of times we need a bit more. So we like to have some extra zip ties in hand to organize the wires a bit more. It's also nice to have a big table on the side of your car, or a big towel. Just lay it flat on the floor so that when you're pulling the panels off your car, you have a safe place to leave it, just to ensure that it doesn't damage your interior, or you don't end up damaging the panels that you remove from your vehicle. If you want, you can use your back seat and your back area to keep some of your panels. When you do that, pay attention to the panel piece. There's some sharp edges and clips that can leave indentation to your seats or your interior. So if you're placing it on the back seat, just face it so that you don't put any pressure from the sharp edges of the back of the panels. Just pay attention a little bit more to how you place your panels. Alright guys, well that was an unboxing video of our S-Connect kit for our Lexus models. If you have any questions, leave a comment below, or you can email us at info@bsonicusa.com. And if there is any issue or anything, which rarely happens, just contact us. We'll take care of you. We pride ourselves with giving really good customer service, and on top of that, we stand behind our products and we'll never let you stranded. We'll always be there for you. Thank you very much, and I'll see you guys in the next video.